Hey everyone, just your average Jen here. Join me. I guess I want to say, I don't know. Coming at you from my bedroom again because it's like my space. Anyway, I'm going to try to get this done before Lindsay goes on live. And I don't know if you guys have, I don't think I've talked about her yet. Maybe I have. I don't know. Anyway, it's up and coming. So anyway, let me get this done. And today's episode right now is going to be about my views and my opinions. And you may not agree with me in what I have to share, but I think that I really like this episode and I liked what I had to share with this episode. So without getting too much into it, let me bring it up and you can decide for yourself. Okay. Okay, here we are. And play. I muted myself.
Hi there, and welcome to I'm Only Human, a podcast that attempts to explain how to coexist with other humans. This podcast is going to dive into topics like: is it possible to overcome human nature? Are rules and laws necessary for taming bad behaviors, or are they simply a control mechanism crafted by other disturbed minds? Why do we fight with each other? How does traditional religion impact us? Can social disease be healed through individual recovery? My name is Jen, and I'm an average human. Before I begin, I would like to state that I will be talking about controversial things such as, but not limited to, religion, God, the Bible, 12-step programs, and politics. I am not an expert, and I don't claim to be one. I will, however, be referencing Alcoholics Anonymous because it is the granddaddy of all other 12-step programs. I will also be quoting things from the Bible and mentioning God along with different religions. I'm not trying to promote a particular program, nor am I trying to convert anyone. I believe religion gives us a foundation, and 12-step recovery guides people down a path to self-actualization. Through recovery, healing is possible. I believe that changed minds and attitudes can change our world. Hello, folks. Today I want to talk about children. Children are people too. We tend to forget that children are just shorter human beings. But what do you do when your child is displaying some mental health condition? First of all, let's start by looking at this. Where did the child learn the behavior from? Adults tend to forget that children are watching them at all times and they learn from observing rather than from what people say. This includes the things they see on TV, the kinds of music they are exposed to, extended family interactions. This all becomes normal to them. What sort of message do you want your child to have? Do you want your child to end up another alcoholic addict statistic? I see plenty of mothers crying on the news because their child was shot by a police officer as a result, usually, of their deviant behaviors. Generally, police don't shoot for no reason at all. This also applies to drive-by shootings, school shootings, or teenage swarms. Our kids are the product of their environment. So if we want change to happen, we have to break things down and start looking at the whys. If you have grown up people with mental health conditions raising children, these children could potentially pick up on those habits or behaviors. This is why individual recovery is so critical. If we want our kids to be the future of the world, we have to start looking at ourselves. We need to start focusing on the things that are important rather than the things we want to do. We, in general, need to take accountability for ourselves. Raising a child is one of the hardest things a person could do. Maladjusted adults will produce children that are deviants to society. Before you jump on me, I know that's not always the case. I understand. Individuals need to take accountability for their actions, and once they correct their actions, others will see change and it will spark them to start behaving differently. But are there resources out there for children? There are so many kids that are living in dysfunction and they have nobody to talk to about it. When I grew up, I thought it was normal for parents to drink alcohol and have fist fights with relatives at family gatherings. I never understood why I couldn't have friends over to the house. Now imagine kids are coming home to drugs all over the house and parents passed out. Who is there to care for this child? How is that child going to get guidance if their parent is not capable of teaching them and showing them what it means to be a contributing member of society? I think this is one of those things that people know about, but nobody really takes the time to stop and think about it. They're all busy focusing on the child, but maybe they're focusing their attention in the wrong aspects. I'm just randomly putting thoughts together here. I would love to find a way to get through to children to let them know that they matter. I look at it this way: most of the people that rule the world were brought up in dysfunctional homes. So now, as an adult, their warped views are the agenda that keeps getting pushed on to everyone else. Rather than healing individual trauma, individual wounds, they just keep making legislation and telling people what they can and can't do based on their own insecurities. When an adult gets into trouble, especially one that's in the public eye, the world weighs in on that. I know the latest gossip is of Taylor Swift and her new man, but we all forget that she's a human just like the rest of us. This poor girl has made mistake after mistake after mistake, just like the rest of us have done. And now she gets picked on by the world for starting a new relationship. Is it possible that it's just to be in the tabloids again? Possibly, but nobody knows for sure. There's people like Aaron Rodgers who want to change the rules of everything to suit their needs. If you really wanted to change the world, find a way to help other people rather than just help yourself. There are those of us that make $20 or less an hour. Get over yourself and your millions of dollars. You cannot relate to the rest of us. The NFL is nothing but a business anyway. It's not there for entertainment. That's what college football is for, because everyone's trying to make a name for themselves. Everyone's trying to prove themselves in college football. In reality, you are getting paid to play a game. I'm sorry that that's so tough on your life. The NFL and all other major sports are all about the money and the merchandise. Those of us that make $20 or less an hour can't afford to buy your merchandise or take the family to a game without it costing 3 months of hard work and sacrifice. So quit your whining over your millions of dollars. But what happens when regular people suddenly become famous? How does that affect the ways they think? Is that when people become corrupt? I'm trying not to lose my mind by creating this podcast, so I have to keep checking myself every now and then to make sure I don't lose touch with reality. I am not above anyone else just because I have a microphone and a computer. I'm still a nobody to the world. But back to the point of finding help for our kids. It seems like schools have become the net to find these kids with mental health disorders. I don't even think it's necessarily mental health disorders. I just think it's a reflection of the environment they're growing up in. That antisocial kid you see in your classroom may or may not be getting sleep at night because of his alcoholic parents. That kid that's angry and never has their homework may be busy taking care of their siblings, filling in for a parent that's not capable of doing the job. There are so many other factors that go into mental health, and it's not likely that the parent is going to see their part in helping the situation progress. I think that kids need a safe place where they can share either one on one or in a peer group just so that discussion can happen and they can have their own support system. Group therapy and recovery programs, I feel, is very beneficial. Why should that be any different for a child? Or why should that be any different for children in general? We need to stop pretending that we're all perfect. We need to stop saying that it's completely the child's fault for the way they're behaving. Kids deserve a place to be able to talk openly about what's really going on at home, and it's not to be nosy or to whisk the parents away in handcuffs. Keep in mind, family secrets kill. I'm sure that an addict doesn't want to be an addict. It doesn't take long before that alcohol is no longer fun. The hangovers are no fun. The drugs don't work anymore, and then what? That's when people want to commit suicide because they don't know how to cope with life on life's terms. We're too busy looking the other way at what that other person has done or how this person screwed up rather than take a look at ourselves and keep the focus on ourselves. I'm going to be working with Jess from Recovery Diaries on a project like this. I know there are programs out there like Alateen, which is a program based off of AA and Al Anon, specifically designed for children, but I think the ages is 14 to 18. We need to be able to reach kids at a younger age. We need to reach them before their behaviors become self destructive, and that doesn't take very long. So maybe schools and institutions should be more focused on mental health rather than what the grade is or how well a kid scores on a test. Once a person learns the basic reading, writing, and mathematical skills, they can learn anything they choose. We need to stop institutionalizing everyone. Humans are not worthless creatures that were meant to be used by other people. We were meant to be part of something bigger where everyone has a role to play. Figuring out that role is not as hard as you may think it is. Where and how can you do the most good for yourself and for others on a non financial basis? This is what community service is all about. It doesn't take much to change the life of another person. Our goal should be to change things for the better, not to step on one another for the sake of wealth, power, and control. I have gone back to the Bible and I'm following the story arc. I'm still only in Genesis, and you can follow with me in the podcast Mark Bible story. I went back because I wanted to look at behavior of humans, and it's been disturbing to say the least. In all these years, that's the one thing that's remained the same. Human behavior, hierarchy of people ruling over other people rather than just assisting one another. I'm sure the Native Americans had it right when they traded for the things they needed rather than expect an outrageous amount of money for basic survival things. Maybe my Bible journey will reveal things as I go through it, but I don't see how. I guess I'll know as I go through it. My thinking might change along the way too. Who knows? So, if there are listeners out there who have an idea on how to get through to these children and how to get through to the parents of these children, please let me know. I don't know how many times I can say the change of the world needs to begin with each person, and children are people too. Imagine if adults had healthy ways of thinking. It's still possible that their child or children may have a mental health issue at some point in life. The difference is that a healthy adult or an adult that knows how to deal with feelings and navigate emotions is capable of teaching their children how to deal with these things too. In life, not everybody's going to get a trophy. Not everybody gets a ribbon. Life has never been that way. We need to learn how to deal with rejection and disappointment at a young age because it happens all the time. Like when a relationship is ending, it's painful and hurtful, but is there any reason to be nasty about it? Children see these things. They see the cops being called, they see doors being beaten down, they see physical violence, and they think this is normal. So, of course, when they become adults, they're going to do the same things. When two people split up, it's a traumatic thing, especially when there's kids involved. At one point, you both had feelings for one another, and it's funny how quickly that can change. One minute you love someone and then in the next you despise them. An unhealthy person will wish the worst for them. And all that is the pain of rejection. Rejection is hard. Being humbled is hard. Relationships dissolve because of both people, not because of only one person. And some people just aren't meant to be together, and that's no reason to hate one another. You don't know if you're compatible with someone unless you date them, and if it turns out you're not compatible, it shouldn't turn into a war. I learned this from watching Seinfeld because Jerry and Elaine used to date, and yet they were still friends. With the TV show Mom, there was a bit of trauma there with the custody of the youngest child, but then Christy did what was best for her son and let her son go live with the father. It's not a crime for fathers to take custody of children. Just because you're a mother doesn't mean you're mentally stable to be a mother. I realize this with my own kids, and I regret every day that I don't get to watch them grow up. Now troubles are brewing, and when children get older and become teenagers, they become more mean. Of course, I feel responsible for my kids, but it's not all my fault. I admit that I probably contributed to some of the behaviors or ill feelings, but I'm not 100% responsible. I don't talk bad about their father. I don't hate him. I never did. He doesn't keep the kids from me, but I still don't see them very much. I suppose I could rearrange my whole life, get a different job on a different shift. There are things I can do. But let's look at reality. First, I have a stable job, and the economy is looking pretty scary right now. I have some job security in case the world tanks. What I do will still be needed because rich folks want to make more money. I'm able to pay my child support, and I'm getting caught up with what I couldn't afford to pay for years. I can't uproot my life and lose that stability. If I fail at life, it affects other people, and I'm right back where I started. I'm doing what I feel is best for my kids by not disrupting their life as they know it. I see them when they have time and when I have time. As selfish as it sounds, I'm a person too. There's no way I can be a good parent if my life is a mess. I ended up forgiving my parents for the mistakes they made. I hope my kids can do the same thing someday. As hard as it is to back off, that is what is good for them. Conflicting parenting and belittling the other parent makes kids feel bad, like they have to choose sides. Plus, kids are very manipulative, and they will tell a parent what that parent wants to hear instead of what they really think. They're afraid to disappoint either parent. I never agreed with my husband's parenting style. I still don't. I realize he is doing the best he can, and who am I to tell him he's doing it wrong when I'm not there to see what's going on? I'm not the one that is dealing with the back talk and disturbing behaviors. This can be an advantage for my kids because they can come over if they need a break. I do things differently than him. It doesn't make me right and him wrong. There are multiple ways to get to the same destination. Keep that in mind. Custody battles can get ugly. I remember so many custody battles with my oldest child, and in the end, it didn't matter anyway because she ended up going to live with her father when she was a teenager. Kids have a way of coming back eventually if they want to. I learned that all that fighting and keeping her from her father was not by any means healthy on my part. It's easy to see looking back now that although he may not have had the best judgment, I think she would have been okay had she been able to see him more. I was stuck in my own insanity and I thought I was superior to him in some way, but I wasn't. I spent a ton of money on legal fees for my younger kids too. I remember all that fighting over visitation and holidays, but guess what? Things on paper look easy and it all works out. Now throw life in the mix. Work, relationships, outside activities take over, and suddenly that schedule is no longer maintained. In a somewhat healthy relationship, it's easy enough to call the other parent and see if the kids are available, and that might be what works best for you. I don't like to be thought of as a deadbeat mom, and I think that deadbeat moms and deadbeat dads get a poor rap. That's why I'm sharing this. I'm sharing this from my perspective, what happened with me in my life. With my younger two kids, I realized, or I thought, that their father was more mentally stable than I was, and that they had a better shot of being adjusted human beings with his influence rather than with the craziness of me and my thinking. It turns out they're just as crazy anyway. My lack of influence didn't matter, except I missed out on watching them grow up. If you're able to share custody with the father or mother, take what you can and quit bashing one another. As long as the child is fed, the child has clothing, the child will adjust to whatever situation they're in. That is why it's so critical to get help not only to all the adults, but to the children as well. I mean, parents can learn from children just as easily as children can learn from parents. When we get older, I think we forget how to have fun and how to use our imagination. We forget that tea parties and stuffed animals, sleepovers are fun things. When our kids are little and they want to do these imaginary playthings with us, we're all too busy or we're all too tired. We don't want to engage on their level and they feel rejected. They feel like what they say or want to do doesn't matter. I understand there needs to be some boundaries there. You can't be your child's best friend, but you should be able to have healthy communication. You may not always agree with one another, and that's what communication is all about. It's about finding that middle ground. Society and work don't help human situations either. We should be with our kids instead of at work to leave them alone and feeling like they don't matter. We're so exhausted from our work day. And then when we come home, there's even more work to do. We got to cook dinner, clean the dishes, there's house cleaning, there's getting laundry done, there's making sure homework is done. And then you have to find time to spend with your kids. Seems like the Cleaver family was probably not an accurate representation of those times, but that's what we think normal should look like. I'm going to continue to promote change in ourselves, in our thinking, in our world as a result of our changed thinking. I know I'm tired of the way the world is. How about you? All of my podcasts talk about change and how change is possible. There's a reason for that. Maybe one day the message will sink in and stay. In closing, I would like to say that the opinions expressed here were strictly of my own making, or by my guests. Take what you like and leave the rest. You may come to realize that you may not like me or what I want to share. Let's talk to each other, reason things out, but let there be no gossip or criticism of one another. Instead, let the fellowship of ethical human behavior and the serenity from positive human interaction help you grow and chill out, one experience at a time. I would like to thank my higher power for guiding me through this podcast. I hope to spread the message of love, hope, and understanding by touching one life at a time. If you like this podcast, please like and share it. Comments also help other struggling people find it. I am now listener supported, and if you would like to contribute, please feel free. There is no obligation. If you would like to share feedback, you can email me at averagehumanbeing1875@gmail.com. There is also a link you can click if you'd like to send a voice message and add to the content of the show.
Okay, then I wrote down a few things as this episode was going on. Let me stop this. Yeah, I forgot about but the sorry. Let me do my little thing. Start again. Okay. So anyway, I forgot about my little sport rant thing, and I ain't trying to offend Aaron Rodgers or anything like that. I really don't care. I don't. And let's see, what else did I write down? Oh yeah, I like bringing up my timeline. When did I record this episode? Let me switch my screen real quick. This again was from September of 2023, and the only reason I bring this up is because it kind of shows my timeline from when I haven't met these people that are going to influence me yet. So the views that I have are kind of similar to the things that I find interesting about them anyway. I'm going to be talking a lot about a guy named Jamie Winship coming up, and you're probably going to get tired of hearing that, but it's just for me and for my own personal thing. It's just nice to hear my views before I've even heard of these people, because I know that my views are genuine and it's not influenced by what these other people may or may not say, but it has changed my insight now versus then a little bit. It's hard to describe. It's like everything I learned just gives me a little bit more clarity and understanding things the way that I need to understand them in order to accept things. Sorry, that was like a burp. All right, so I'm going to let you go and join me again for the next episode. Bye-bye.